rise. I feel like a lot of us feel like there's been some things that have been swept under the rug, and I think that's unfortunately like a normal situation when it comes to village and city government, but I'd like that in our village not really to be the case. So if the village has a way to improve that transparency with us, I think that'd be great. And that's what I have to say.
All I would say is all our budget meetings were held here and they were all televised. You can watch them, I think, on Facebook. They're still, YouTube, they're still available. So, yep, thank you. Robert Scott.
Second meeting.
Okay. Sam Dreo.
Second meeting.
All right. Ooh, Don? Don, is it Donna? I'm sorry.
The only thing I have to say is, I'm looking at all of you, and I obviously know these taxes are going up. You're driving me out of my home because pretty soon I can't afford to live there anymore. I can't afford my taxes, I can't afford my school taxes, I can't afford to pay my bills anymore. And I'm looking at all these families, my grandchildren, oh my God. They have to pay for playground now, $50 a child? This is disgusting. And then you turn around and look at all these raises everybody else has got, the fireman. How much money was spent on a ladder, a new ladder that wasn't necessarily really needed, and now we're all suffering and paying for it.
Thank you, Donna. Last speaker, Bill.
Well, a couple things. I was thinking about this. The way I see it, it's an existentialist type of a situation now for a lot of people staying in this area, as she noted. The way I see it, it's simple. It would be like a lot of communities have to come to grips with. It's consolidate, dissolve, or receivership. I mean, the area is circling the drain. Everyone knows it. And you're trying to treat the disease with the poison that caused the disease in the first place. It's just irresponsible. And if you look at the poverty rate in Fredonia, I believe it's 24%. Everyone is delusional. So as far as cutting, you know, I don't know who arbitrated all these union contracts. I don't know too much about it. I haven't had too much time to look into it. But as far as, you know, union employees and salaries, I don't know what the legalities are. But you're going to have to cut at some point. I don't care if it results in lawsuits or whatever. That's how I see it. It's an existentialist crisis. It's not going to get any better without consolidation or dissolution or receivership. I believe Forestville had to do it years ago, 10, 12 years ago. And I think Fredonia is close to that point. I think we're already there. And driving people out is not the answer. But that's what's going to happen.
Thank you, Bill. Does anyone else want 3 minutes to speak on the tax levy?
Yes.
I'm not sure how much this is going to increase my tax.
I need your name.
Kathy Furness.
Thank you, Kathy.
I'm not sure how much this is going to increase my taxes, but I imagine $100 a month. I'm not sure where you think I'm going to pull that out of. It's ridiculous. And what the other woman said, the surprise of it, the shock of it. How did this happen suddenly? 65%? A month ago, you were talking about 52%. This is just undoable. And the thing is, too, our services are getting less and less every year. I don't even bother raking my leaves out to the front anymore, because every year I call and say, my leaves have been out for 2 weeks. They say the truck is broken. And then in the spring, they come up and pull the leaves up, and my grass is dead. So what have I been doing the last 5 or 6, 10 years? I've raked 55 bags of leaves, taken them down to the village, 5 bags at a time, because I don't have that service anymore. And what else do we get? I live on East Main. You plow the sidewalk poorly, but it's plowed. It's just undoable. I don't know what I'll do if you raise the taxes like this.
Thank you, Kathy. Anybody else want to speak regarding the tax cap? If not, we will adjourn till 6:30 when the public hearing regarding the budget will commence. There will be another sign-up sheet. Robert and Sam, I've got you signed up for that one? Is there another sign-up sheet up there? Can you? Okay. This being the time and place for the public hearing, the proposed 2025-26 village budget proof of publication shown, I call this meeting to order. Before we, can I have the list, please?
Yes.
Before I call the public speakers, I need to make an announcement.
Thanks.
The state has weighed in on our attempt to reduce our salaries. The state controller's office got hold of the village, we called the attorney to weigh in, and this was their response. Under municipal home rule law, blah, 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 a village has the power to adopt local laws relating to the compensation of its officers' employees. Local laws that reduce the salary of an elected officer during their term, however, are subject to mandatory referendum. Village may adopt a local law reducing salaries of the mayor and trustees, and if such law is to be effective before expiration of the terms of the office of the mayor and trustees then in office, it must be approved by a mandatory referendum. So I know this doesn't make any sense, but according to the law, the only way we can reduce our salaries is to pass a local law, and then the village would have to vote on it. We could raise our salaries, but in order to reduce our salaries, that's the current law. So, with that, the numbers will have changed because we had reduced trustees' stipends from 5,000 to 3,000, and we had reduced the mayor's salary from 12,000 to 9,000. We are not legally able to do that. So with that, Alyssa will give us the new updated numbers.
So I'm gonna run through the whole report that I ran through the other day with the new numbers. Minus the 15,408. I gotta add that number in. So the total revenue for the three funds for the upcoming 25-26 year is $13,109,011, with expenses at $12,784,546. The general fund has the capital expenses of $142,000, with the mayor and trustee salaries back to their original amounts. The taxes went to $61.29 per thousand, which is an increase of $24.43 per thousand, which concludes to a $540 average per household. This is assuming health insurance increases of 5% and general liability insurance increases of 5%, as well as no increases to salaries of any department heads, but assumed increases for union employees. For the water fund, capital projects are $210,500. The water rates will increase to $7.60 per thousand. Water minimum rate will remain at $30 per quarter. Sewer fund capital projects will be $57,500. Sewer rents will increase to $8 per thousand, and the minimum base rate will be $30 per quarter.
Thank you. Once again, we'll be limiting public speaking to 3 minutes to encourage people to be focused, and it will allow more people to speak per open meetings law. So first, Robert Scott, please.
Good evening, all. Watched over 4 hours of budget hearing meeting, and you guys really put in an effort. I can see how it pains you to do a lot of things. And I'm going to start off with what was said in the last 5 minutes of Monday morning's meeting. And that was, you're trying to make up for what has been happening in the village for God knows how long. Well, I went back and checked my tax bills. In 2015 to 2016 to 2020 to 2021, 6 years, never went up a penny. It was the exact same amount every year. If you looked at the Social Security cost of living adjustment, which is easy found by everybody, cost of living went up 12.9%. So whoever the trustees were there, I don't know how you managed not to get any employees increases in wages, kept the benefits down and everything. You must have worked miracles. The following 4 years, 19.1% cost of living increase in Social Security COLA. Village taxes only went up 11.2%. So like I told you guys about, 4 weeks ago when I was here, it seems like you're reactive instead of proactive. You guys are now having to react. Couple things here. Got a minute and a half left. On the 10th, the fire department, operating costs 1.587, revenue was a loss of 477,000. It was good to hear that the fire chief had got the town to kick in more money, from what was it, 450 to 540. What disturbed me a little bit though is a 3-year contract. 540 the following year, 549. That's only an increase of 1.67%. Are you going to be able to keep your employees' wage increase below that amount? Especially if it just said 5% and Benny's is assumed in this contract. And then the following year, it was going to go to 555. It's an only 1% increase. Guys, when you're negotiating these things, you've got to keep in mind all these things are interrelated. The other point, down to 40 seconds. This morning, Monday morning, you were going back and forth and things of that nature, so to make it really quick. You went from 2 patrol cars to 1 patrol car. I can understand that. You're trying to keep the increase down as low as possible. But let me throw this suggestion at you in the 20 seconds I have remaining. The fire department was getting $540,000 up to this point, so in revenue. So next year you're going at $540,000 again. Instead of cutting costs, may I suggest raise that by $70,000 to cover the second car?
Thank you.
Because
Thank you, Mr.
who
Scott.
knows,
Thank
there
you.
could be tariffs and you won't be able to get the police car that's a specialized unit
Thank you.
and not off the lot.
Thank you, Mr. Scott, I appreciate it. Next speaker is Sam Drayo.
It's difficult to understand how and why the village is in this very significant financial downturn, which is causing a substantial tax increase. To help, the village board needs a written explanation of why the village was required to borrow $825,000 in January of this year. Without an explanation, the village will have a difficult time determining how to prevent a similar future fiscal distress. Why were the fiscal problems not foreseen months ago? The village board should have been aware long before the January borrowing that the village was having a serious and substantial cash flow problem. The village board and taxpayers and residents need a written explanation. To my knowledge, has not been provided. Why an explanation? An explanation should help the village avoid a similar problem in the future. You are proposing a substantial tax increase, and the residents of the village deserve an explanation. To avoid future financial problems, the village board, the treasurer, and perhaps a municipal auditor should meet at least twice a month to review the financial status of the village. The village should put in place a hiring freeze. The largest costs of the village are personnel costs and wages and benefits. Use of overtime may be used and needed, but if the overtime is handled in an efficient and planned manner, it can avoid new hiring and the cost of wages, health insurance payment of Social Security premiums, and New York State retirement premiums that are associated with the new employee. The cost of the village of a new employee can easily exceed $80,000. However, if it becomes urgent that a new employee is absolutely needed, the board can make budget transfers or make a temporary borrowing at that time, but don't now add a new employee to the budget and tax the village residents for it, as it may not be needed or in the best interest of the village to hire a new employee, and you will have then unnecessarily taxed village residents. Also in the future, the abstract of bills, as I mentioned this before, should be attached to the resolution so the board and the public and the news media can see the bills that are paid by the village. It's simply a matter of stapling the list to the abstract of the bills that are approved. Stating that bills are on file in the village clerk's office is inadequate or keeping with the open meetings law. The residents deserve and should know what bills or services or contractual payments the village intends to pay. The residents can view the agenda online and see in advance of board approval what those bills are and what was intended to be paid. Also attaching the bills to the village official minutes at the time of approval makes it an official and permanent record of what was approved without having to make freedom of information requests or going to the clerk's office for a copy. Increasing village taxes can adversely affect the value of homes. I do real estate in the village homes, and I can tell you, people who are buying homes are looking at the taxes, and this is going to discourage, have an effect on the value.
Thank you, Mr. Drayo.
And-
Appreciate it.
And have an effect on
3 minutes.
marketability of the homes in our village. It's a serious matter.
Mr. Drayo, I'm sorry, everybody gets 3 minutes. Your 3 minutes has expired.
Yeah.
Thank you very
I'm going
much.
to have something to say about that 3-minute rule later.
Please do,
Yeah.
please do. Mr. Bill Sliwa, did I pronounce that correctly? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I've been away for 40 years, career in higher education, recently moving back to this area, and this village needs to understand that you're crumbling. And you're crumbling because that place across the street is crumbling. 256 acres means they are the largest landowner by far in this village, and they are not paying a penny in taxes. That is unsustainable. The enrollment of the college is a direct result of the decline of the Village of Fredonia. They used to have 12,000 students, they now have 3. You have 469 students in your high school. 40 years ago, that number was way higher than that. It's time to start some serious conversations and some serious looking at yourselves and each other and realize that this is not the Western New York it was with the rivalry where, as a Dunkirk native, I would have never stepped foot inside this building because of the rivalry that existed. Those days are gone. Those days are over. It's time to start planning for consolidation. It's time to start planning for the future if you plan on having a future. Ask the question to yourselves, why are we allowed 70% of the employees at SUNY Fredonia do not even live in this village, therefore they are not paying taxes? It is time to think about taxing anybody that works in the Village of Fredonia that does not live here. That is not unprecedented in other parts of the country and could be a severe revenue source for you. They also have a police force over there that patrols those 236 acres. So there's a lot of different ways to look at that. I want you all to know that I sold a home for $540,000 in Knoxville, Tennessee. My yearly taxes, $863. Why? Knox County Schools You do not need all these school districts with all these superintendents and all this fat. I've learned that there are so many consolidations of schools to have sports teams here that it's embarrassing. Forceville, Silver Creek, I know this is not your business, but it needs to be your business. You cannot have those schools paying superintendents $100 and some thousand a year in a time when we are facing a fiscal crisis here. There are less than 10,000 people living in the Village of Fredonia, according to the Census Bureau. And if I heard right, you said there's a $13 million budget?
Yes.
So we're spending I can't do that math in my head, but somebody please do the math. For 10,000 people, we're spending $13 million. It's time, folks, to wake up and realize I'm here to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. I moved home at my choice to be near my family again, and whatever I can do, including being on the school board, which there's a ridiculous rule that you have to live here for a year before you can be on the school board. I was a college vice president for 20 years. I think I might be qualified. I was also a college football coach for 20 years. The way this business is being run is not being run as a business, and it's time you realize Dunkirk needs to get rid of the city. You need to consolidate and have central schools, 3 of them, and get rid of all the waste.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next speaker, Mr. Linden.
James Linden, Castile Drive. With this budget, it almost seems like it's being an intentional degrading of our community. You had a budget that that your current year in, that you are was overinflated with appropriations because you gave massive pay increases to department heads, but yet you raised taxes almost 6%. There's a red flag. Why wasn't that red flag seen? Well, to tell you what, I stood before this board before you passed this current year's budget and warned you it wasn't sustainable. And I told you why. And halfway through the year, you had to borrow $825,000. You aren't listening to the public. So this year's budget is unprecedented in this village, the overspending. There is ways to deal with that spending. It's not about consolidations. It's not about, or the gentleman who said we should be raising money in the past years. Well, the past year's budget, they stayed within their budgets. Villages don't bank money. They don't raise taxes to bank money. You raise revenues to meet your needs and anticipated future costs, but not massive. You don't overspend first and then tell your public that you have to raise this surprising massive amount of funds. If you need be, you have to lay off people. If you have to, if there's areas that are not under contract like union, where you don't have to pay some employees in pay increases, you don't do that. You have to cut costs. You didn't do that. I saw you during the year, you started counting gloves at the work gloves. I mean, big freaking deal. You talk about the water rates increases and stuff. And for the last year and a half, you've been spending money on studies of studies and going nowhere. Instead of investing that money, not one grant was looked into to repair our own water system. Of course, nothing got fixed. It's intentional dismantling of our community. This didn't happen before. It wasn't just that many years ago. We did have a mayor that was able to get hundreds or actually millions of dollars in grants to effectuate the repairs of our system. Since that mayor, this is 5.5 years later, nothing has been done. This is not acceptable. It is definitely able to be fixed.
Thank you. Next
If you
speaker,
can't do it, someone
Mark
else can.
Twitchell.
Thank you. So, let me get this straight. a judge is going to tell you, the village board, if you don't honor a contract and you have no money, that you have to borrow more money to make that contract good. I don't believe that. I believe the hard work that you have to do, and what you have been doing, is to make the difficult calls. There is not a single department in this village that deserves to be treated with special care. There is simply no justification for that. The village is safe when the streets department, the police department, and the fire department are adequately funded, but none of them are excessively funded just because they need this or they need that. I am so happy that New York State said that you don't need to reduce, that you can't reduce your income. You don't deserve that. I know from my own house what goes on week to week, the endless phone calls, the endless meetings. You folks don't deserve to take a cut in pay. When I heard that there was going to be a cut in pay, I thought, oh, they feel bad because they're not able to make the hard decisions. Must be because they've placed the village in such a dire condition that they feel that the only way that they can signal their integrity is by taking a cut in pay. But that's not really the way I saw it. I just thought that the cut in pay was an unnecessary, just an unnecessary gesture. I know you guys are all working hard. You just haven't made the right calls yet. The calls are difficult. That's what you're getting paid to do. You know where the cuts need to be made, where the people don't need to be hired, where more equipment does not need to be purchased. You all know that. It's a hard thing to do. But it absolutely has to be done. This is unsustainable. The way the budget looks to me, you're going to be borrowing another several $100,000 next year. Eventually, you're not going to be able to borrow money, and the village is going to have to fold up. And now is the time. You guys have an opportunity here. You can set things straight. Maybe you can't go from 55 down to 0, but you can certainly, by judiciously dealing with these departments, you can certainly cut this down to a very respectable level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Twitchell. Mr. Sedota?
Okay. I went through the current year's budget today, which is part of the scheduling of your budget. And in a few lines, you already have overexpended $400,000, round numbers. $250,000 of that is capital funds. You're trying to pay for capital assets out of your current budget. The prior year, prior couple of years, you spent almost $950,000 in capital projects. And you haven't...
Hold on a second, Jim. Excuse me. Can we keep it quiet so we can hear Mr. Sedota?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Go ahead.
So it was brought to my attention earlier in the year that was a problem with your procurement policy. And I did provide a publication that the state puts out. And it's the process of okaying bills to be paid. You have to have a purchase order approved first. And so apparently there's still a weakness there. You wouldn't have lines overexpended without budget transfers. So now, what's the solution to that? Well, I understand you have to replace assets. A fixed asset has more than a one-year term, so you can do a bond anticipation note. You spread the cost out, and it's a reasonable position to take. The interest rates are low, and but you can't continue to authorize in your budget. This year, it's like $400,000, a police car, $140,000 in the general fund. These things have to be done, I understand, but it's pretty obvious that you can't pay it out of the current budget. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I did speak with the treasurer today, and she's looking into this. came to my attention that the $825,000 cannot be paid out of the proposed budget. It has to be paid out of funds that were set aside, that she indicated would be set aside in a separate fund so that in June, the end of June, she'd have the money to pay for it. Which means that you should be able to reduce the general fund budget by $825,000. That's about $10 per thousand in the tax roll. So I believe there are some other areas that need to be studied by the board. You have until May 1st to approve the budget. And I think it'd be worth your while to continue to look for where you can cut.
Thank you, Mr. Wood, I appreciate it. Though that's all the people that have signed up, does anybody else want 3 minutes to speak? You already did.
A few years ago, I worked for a contractor in town. I was a office manager. I have 30 years' experience in that, 20 years' experience as a tax preparer. I went to RIT, I have my BS in accounting, so I kind of know numbers. We got a village job, and by law, because of the union rules, we had to pay our guys union wages. They got 3 and 4 times what they normally got paid. And my understanding was that was just for the first 8 hours. Not just 8 hours in one day, it was 8 hours. And if they worked over 8 hours, which this job was, but not more than 8 hours in a day, they got time and a half. I don't know if I remember all the details right, but wow, that's a lot. I am not against unions. I think they have their place. But really and truly, why are union workers getting 3 and 4 times more than everybody else in the village? It's just crazy, just crazy.
Thank you.
It would be a great way to save some money. And I totally disagree with the 3-minute thing. I think it's an arbitrary rule to, my time's not up, so.
Sorry. Okay.
It's an arbitrary rule to shut us up, so.
It's not arbitrary, but that's
Well,
okay.
Then what is it? And that we can't ask questions at a meeting like this? That's,
It's the public hearing. We're here to listen to the public, not exchange dialogue.
when can we come and ask questions?
Every meeting we have,
Okay.
all
And do
our,
we get 3 minutes then too?
all our names, all our email addresses, all our phone numbers. I'm here almost every day. I'm always available if you want to talk, always.
I don't think that any of you don't have a hard job. I think you do have a hard job. But I have a personal budget, and when I'm gonna go past that, I have to figure out what I have to cut. Maybe I'll stop visiting my children because they live in the West. That will probably be the first thing to go. I'm a senior citizen. If I have to put my house up for sale, there's gonna be a lot of other people who have to put their house up for sale. And what's that gonna do to the price of houses? They're gonna plummet. And that's gonna hurt the tax base. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I believe this gentleman would like to speak once more. Just add.
Go ahead. Yep.
Is everybody aware that we are in Chautauqua County, which is part of the Appalachian Regional Commission?
Right, yes.
And you know that Chautauqua County is a distressed part of the
Yes,
Appalachian Regional
correct.
Commission. Are we looking, sorry, this is a question. I would hope that one is understanding the grant opportunities available through the ARC. And if you need help navigating the ARC, I have successfully submitted quite a few ARC grants on behalf of colleges and universities, and is one of the first places we should look.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Yes.
Well, I would, just a couple thoughts. You know, you can talk all you want about cost of living adjustments. That's all great for people who work in the public sector, but what about the other half of the population who has to fund this? We don't get cost of living adjustments. I think, not to sound cliche, I think you need to get your Doge pens out and come to some really hard realities here, because this is gonna end badly. Just trying to collect my thoughts on this, but as I said, as far as these union contracts that you can't seem to reverse, again, I would just go scorched earth and let the lawsuits come. Otherwise, dissolve the village.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, with that, trustee Syracuse, there's a resolution that we need to pass tonight.
Whereas pursuant to Section 20 of the Municipal Home Rule Law of the State of New York, a public hearing must be held on the adoption of proposed local law number 5, a local law establishing Chapter 198 of the Village Code entitled Vendors. Notice of such public hearing published in the official newspaper, The Observer. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia hereby schedules a public hearing on the 28th day of April at 5:30 PM in the Trustees Room, 2nd floor in Village Hall, 911 Church Street, Fredonia, New York, to receive comments on the proposed 2025 local law, which is on file in the office of the Village of Clerk of the Village of Fredonia, and be it further resolved that the village clerk is hereby directed to publish notice of said hearing pursuant to village law.
Second.
Trustee Twitchell?
I do agree with that, but I'm surprised that we're doing this now. Okay.
We have to set the public hearing.
We have to set
Yeah,
the public
We have
hearing.
to set the public hearing.
I'd like to see that happen, then aye.
Trustee Wandel?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Brockler?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Before we leave, trustee Twitchell has asked that we take some time next week to get together again. So please look at your calendars and let's find a time that works for all of us. She wants to go over the budget one more time,
Yes.
which if we make changes, is that going to require another public hearing? Which
No.
will not require another public hearing? Okay.
Right.
So let's look at our schedule and see when we can all get together and do that, please. Thank you.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, then I call this meeting over. Thank you very much.